All right, and we are live. And the camera from my feed is back at the paint desk. Janet is ready to go. Janet, how are you doing tonight?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm having a great evening, and one of my favorite people is on stream with me right now. And we are talking about one of the movies that I discovered when I was 6, or whenever HBO first had it on way back in the day. I'm so happy you finally have had a chance to watch it. And what did you think?
Well, I thought it was really good. I love the concept of the whole premise behind the time warp and where they went with such strong weapons into the past. I thought that was very interesting. That whole concept was really cool because I loved the whole thing about time tunnels, going ahead or back in time because I believe that one day we'll be able to do that. It may sound nutty, but I do believe it. But I thought it was really good overall, and I loved the whole scenes with the. My dad was in the Air Force, so the whole thing with all the flight, the planes, even though these were Navy planes and stuff, the excitement that the two pilots had when they saw the two planes, the Japanese planes, what were they called, the Mitsubishi's A60 or something like that.
You can just call them zeros.
Yeah, they seemed very excited. So I just thought that really it made me excited for the pilot. They, they just thought that was cool. And then when they got to shoot them down, I thought they seemed like that whole aspect of it brought me in and made me believe that these people really thought this was super awesome, experience for them. Everybody on the show, once they realized what it was, I think that they seemed like they enjoyed it. As real in the on the ship, that part of it, not just being it. that
The movie we're discussing, by the way, if you didn't see the title, we're discussing a movie called The Final Countdown from 1980. And I'd like to welcome our chat in here. First one that was in the stream, and we should have probably started to go live with Shadow and Sun. Thank you, Shadow. Green Apple pops in after that. And then Woke Breaker. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Oh,
Which was
hello,
a good show.
hello there, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you. And I do want to say that this movie, when I first saw it, I was 6. So I really did not have a complete comprehension of what was going on. I saw military and I saw aircraft carrier and I saw really cool jets, really loud jets. But when I got older and I was watching it, I was able to understand what was actually at stake and what the significance of it was. It's one of those movies I've watched probably about in excess of 30 times.
Yeah, I watched it once, watched it the second time, but pausing it so I could kind of like pay attention a little bit more to details. So I only saw it twice. Sorry, because I've never seen it before. I guess you know. I don't know why. I just never did see it.
Um, Later, because I was a young man and I followed a woman into the Navy, I I really came to enjoy this movie even more because a lot of films, when they are military based, they're military in name and appearance only. They have very passing resemblance to the military. And I'm going to just say, something like Rambo. Rambo is really not a good example of what an army film is. I would say if you want to see what the army is capable of doing, you could watch. I'm blanking, the 2001 release in October where you have Tom Sizemore and a bunch of others in Somalia, and they're at the Mogadishu. But I'm drawing a blank. That
Red,
movie there.
that Red Dawn.
No, not Red Dawn. Another fun movie, not a good army movie, but and
Couple of Full
I'll
Metal. I'm
not
just. I'm
that's
sorry.
that's the Marine Corps film. You're
I'm
good.
sorry. I told you I don't know a lot of movies, especially war stuff.
I'll find it here in just a second. But Tom Sizemore was in a film years ago on the failed raid against Fatah Adid, I believe, and Black Hawk Down is the name of it.
Okay, yeah.
And that is a really well
Didn't
put together film. Go ahead.
Didn't that happen under Bill Clinton? Black Hawk Down?
Yeah, that happened in October of '93 when I graduated from Navy boot camp, and we weren't even made aware of that situation because most of us weren't going to be involved with that situation at all. We were just going to be people that we have we have a ship and we're helping steer it to its location. We'll be on shift for 8 hours or 12 hours, and that's basically what most of my fellow sailors are going to be doing is being on watch, and a lot of them did that. But a couple guys I met in AIT did try for dive school, and later one of them tried for buds and EOD, and he failed. His shoulder gave away. He has a shoulder. He says it's the curse, and I'm like, what's that? And he's like, well, I'm like 30 years old, and I have a shoulder like a 70-year-old man. So once again, I have a friend that is like Brian Bosworth, really, really athletic at a young age, very, very bad shape at an old age. So, but this movie, The Final Countdown, the first 10 or 15 minutes of it, the port scenes.
Mm-hmm.
When your camera is going around the port scenes, you meet Lasky, played by Martin Sheen, and you find out that he's a civilian contractor, and he's somebody who is just going to be tied to the ship for a bit. You know, we're just going to see how the crew reacts. We're going to see how everything goes out, and how well the crew handles this. You know, we're just doing some exercises out in the Pacific, nothing big. And then as you're driving around, you see all these soldiers in dungarees. And the Naval Film Institute or some like organization was involved with the making of this movie, because if it was not done so authentically, you would have a lot of this film where the port scenes would be nothing but dress blues everywhere. You'd have like guys doing parades and marching and all that. And Navy sailors don't do that. We've got our hands full. We're in our working uniform. We got dungarees, these ugly blue jeans and bell bottoms, and this is back in 1980.
Funny little hats.
I mean, one of my favorite characters growing up, and I'll bring you a picture of him here in just a second. This might have been the reason why I joined the freaking Navy when I was a young kid.
Was your dad ever in the military?
No, my grandfather was, and my great-grandfather was, and my uncle was. So, I mean, I'm just going to say that we, yeah. No, let me, that's the one I want to see. When I was growing up, we had G.I. Joe.
Oh,
okay.
G.I. Joe.
And you couldn't go, and Tommy just talked about this. This character right here, Shipwreck, by the way, he's way more buff in this picture than he ever was in the film. He wasn't fat by any means, but he didn't look like the type of guy that spent his time working out. As soon as the job was done, as soon as the work is over, he's probably going to grab his parrot and go grab a nap. That's what we do best. And then after that, then okay, we're going to come back and be recognizable. But after a big endeavor, like if you ever had like a main space fire on ship, like after you got done, oh my God, let me boot that shit out of here.
Were you on a big ship like that one?
Say again?
Were you on a big ship like the one that was in the movie?
I didn't hear you, hon. I'm sorry.
Big ship like the one that was in the movie.
No, I was not on a ship like that.
Oh,
I was not. The two ships I were on were super small. And one of them was a mine countermeasure ship. And another one was comics. All right, where was I need to get the? I'm trying to get the visibility public thumbnail. Okay, customization. There we go. Subscribers. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's what I want. So, yeah, Shadow, lots of spam.
what is it? Oh, in the room. Oh, online strips without clothing.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, we're a bunch of 30 and 40 and 50 somethings in here, talking about an old movie, but you go ahead.
I had no idea that. Who does that? Is it just a robot they put in? It just travels.
It's a bot. I had to go in and
Where did it come from?
they saw an available stream that would allow people to just post. Anybody could post. So I turned on subscriber mode. Sorry about those of you that are not subscribers, but you have to be a subscriber for at least 20 minutes for me to hear you now. And you can blame those porn bots for it, because the porn bots what fucked it up for everybody. And those people aren't from fucking Russia, they're from China.
Shadow said, wait, don't delete yet. I don't know what that.
I'm having a hard time deleting them. If I'm having a hard time deleting them, I'm thinking you probably will too.
Deleting who?
The person that's trying to spam my channel.
Shadzar?
Not Shadzar.
Oh, okay. See, I told you I just don't know a lot about this stuff.
Shadzar's doing it.
He's got a wrench by him, so that means
he's able to do it. Go ahead and report him. Go ahead and report him, Shadzar. Thank you. Cool. Shadzar's able to use YouTube. Awesome. A lot of crap going on in his life, but I mean, thank you for coming in, sir. No, this movie has, at the start of this film, the port scenes, which I felt let it have some serious authenticity.
Yeah.
And you have the guys walking around in dungarees, and they're doing port operation stuff. But it was really crazy. Thank you, Shadzar. He says, I was watching, but I signed in when I saw porn spam. Yeah, I had to turn on the subscriber only stuff. I'm sorry, dude. You have that authenticity built up, and you can see that the DoD is doing something with Lasky. And it's just kind of a normal cruise. We have this high up guy on the food chain. This really well paid GS is sent out there.
Yeah, well, they started the whole shady overthrow at the very beginning. We saw the gentleman or someone, you just saw a head in the back of the limousine, and the Martin Sheen's character didn't even know who it was because he had never met him. But when he goes to try to meet him, he said, no, it's okay. He just wants to see you off. So that was suspicious. So when everything does start to happen, you automatically assume that he must be involved, or someone on the ship involved with whatever's going to happen, just because of the limousine at the very beginning. I mean, did you get that from it?
I kind of did the first few times, and I've hypothesized that was a senator at the very end. I don't know how he would know, though. I don't.
I mean, I don't know how you would know.
He would. How would he know what day to go to Hawaii, what day to go to Pearl Harbor, what day to go? And I'm not certain, but at the very end, the senator comes back, and you see that he's aged a little bit, and you You can tell, but that was just how I thought about it. It was very suspicious, and that was
When the
go ahead.
character played the senator, and he was talking about he was talking about DOJ might be involved. Uh, what was the other one? It was not the CIA, but there was another branch of the government that he mentioned.
There,
So,
yeah, the
so
secret squirrels, as we call them.
especially since the way they talked to him on the radio, we thought he was all his shit didn't stink. Guys,
Mm-hmm.
get off of here. See, all that banter between the soldiers and stuff, or the seamen, whatever you want to call them, made it seem realistic to me because at that moment, I was married to a Navy man. He was a submariner, but I was married to a Navy submariner. So that all seemed very realistic to me. Whoever they got to put that stuff, even the way the captain acted on the ship, the way
Mm-hmm.
he rolled his eyes when he saw they had to have a pansy on his boat and had to cater to him or whatever, it seemed authentic to me. All that different part when it came to the military stuff, and I don't want to say anything else about that part yet until we get to that part.
Yeah, I think the defining part where we move from Act One to Act Two is probably the first time tunnel, and I mean, up until that point, it's just kind of like business as usual, but we have this weird person on board. And Lasky, I don't know if he was aware of what was going to go on. I don't think he was. I think this is just if you've not seen the movie before, spoilers. They get sent back to 1941, December 6th, basically,
Mhm.
and they get to observe the Japanese fleet with the three aircraft carriers that caused so much ruckus at Pearl Harbor, and they launched 306 or 303 Japanese planes to just ruin, just bloody our nose, our beautiful, perfect nose in Pearl Harbor, and they do that. But that time tunnel, when that first happened, we were watching a movie, and I think something had happened.
Well, the part where he first goes on board, Martin Sheen's character, I'm trying to remember what his name is. Oh, Warren Askey. That's right. When he was first taken to his quarters, pulls his bed out and everything, which kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like in a quarters on a boat, or on the what do you call it, aircraft carrier. But then him going into the other guy's uh, room, which to me was suspicious right off the bat, because if this guy is and he helped build this place, he knows that you don't just go into other people's quarters. So that made me more suspicious of it. Then when he starts going through his papers and stuff on his desk, that was like blatantly, he's either a huge narcissist dick or or he's really stupid. Those are the only two options I had. From the way he was reacting. So, what did you think about the way he was conducting himself on the boat?
If there was ever a pre Tom Cruise Maverick appearance in the U.S. Navy, Lasky could definitely be it.
Yep, for sure.
Because I'm just going to say that during the making of Top Gun, during the making of Tom Cruise, no, the making of Top Gun,
Mm-hmm.
all the reports I've read, all the documentaries I've read, Val Kilmer, everybody else was just fucking good to the Navy guys, but Tom Cruise, he felt intimidated, and like most pilots are taller than 5'8".
Yeah.
So he felt really just intimidated the whole movie, and he had to stand next to Val Kilmer a couple times, and he didn't like that. So, we talk almost about as much as Top Gun as we do Final Countdown, but those two movies are both really well received Navy films. The authenticity of that portrayal that Lasky has is pretty impressive, because I've met GSs before that they were focused on one item on the ship. They're focused with their job. And really, to hell with you if you're not involved with it. Just go take care of your business elsewhere. Do not interact with me. I'm not here. I'm working on this boiler or this piece of tech or
Mhm.
this fire control or whatever it may be. If you're not the technician that is supposed to be operating this with me and getting it up to the new OEM specs, then you're mainly in my way.
Well, I don't
And
want to.
that's the majority of GSs I've had to deal with in the Navy.
I was going to say something bad about him because apparently I can tell you've seen the movie many, many times, but I had only seen it one time. And after I watched it the very first time, I wondered why in the hell they even had Martin Sheen's character in the movie. So don't get mad at me, okay?
No. I think his character does a good way to juxtapose how you see the Navy operates with all of the wardrobe staff and the chief and a few sailors that you see. By the way, this movie is if you like extras in a movie, this movie has so many extras that were given scale wages for a day or two to be on camera or be in the background because all those guys are sailors.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but the thing is that when I started to write down my notes and everything, the second time when I watched it, the second time to write stuff down and look at it different, break it down a little in my head, I started thinking, why is Martin Sheen even in this movie? The premise around everything had nothing to do with him.
Hmm.
All the Navy, the pilots, the way they ran the ship, whether or not they were going to take out the Japanese fleet, to stop the potential war, all that different stuff. And Martin Sheen's character wasn't even needed for any of that. Besides him going through and taking stuff off the other guy's desk. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, as a woman watching a movie about military, my dad was Air Force. He was jungle survival instructor, so he worked with pilots a lot, training them what would happen if you crashed in the jungle, how to survive, how to fix your boo-boos or wounds or whatever you call it, how to make makeshift bombs and trip wires, all that stuff. I loved all that because I got to go with my dad a lot because I was the boy basically, and see him make stuff and had to sit and shut up. I wasn't allowed to talk or anything. I wasn't allowed to be in there in the training. But when he was working on certain things about what they were going to do in the different classes, I got to watch him do that kind of stuff. Plus, I got to help him feed the snakes and all that random stuff, which was really cool. But the whole aspect of the way the military men acted, like it looked to me like there probably really were real Navy guys on the ship because when they were landing the planes and the way that people were running across and the one guy with the headphones and he's talking to the ship, slow down, speed up, speed up, speed up, like that, all that stuff all seemed totally real. Like I was immersed into it. Even as a girl, I was drawn in because of the way, just to see the way everything is like clockwork, click, 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 everything's going into place because everything has to be done just right because it's not very big. It's not a giant runway like you would at an airport. It has to have all the room they need to be able to land and have that big net thing pop up at the end to keep the plane from going into the water, right? So it was a very detailed and intricate stuff that they were trying to show you, almost like a documentary. I mean, to me, that's kind of how I looked at the way that the ship was set up.
That's basically the whole first act is you're getting to see how everything interacts, how everybody interfaces with each other. Like you have the wardrobe staff, which is mostly the main focus of the movie. How they are dealing with being shoved in 1941 is Act 2 and Act 3 stuff, but Act 1 you get to see them in their element both at port and then as they start sailing off. And once they start to sail off, that really does a good job of highlighting what it's like to be on underway. It it turns into a different job. And no matter how much sleep you thought you got last night, it's not going to be enough because you're going to be up for about 22 hours a day. And that sounds terrible, but that's about the realness of it. That was what they told us when we would go underway. And that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah.
When we get to port, that was the time when we would get to sleep. We get to go off the ship, do things. But once the ship was underway, I mean, you were in constant states of, okay, I'm repairing this piece of item. I'm repairing these life preservers. And, if you were a deckhand like me, okay, I'm going to be doing all my PMS stuff today, which is preventive maintenance systems. But PMS is something that everybody laughs about outside.
They're like when the pictures were coming out of the little, I guess it's called scanner of some type or whatever, like showing radar and then showing the aerial shots and all that different stuff. All that stuff was very interesting because I've never been inside of a ship, so I don't really know what it looks like. So it seemed the close quarters, this narrow hallways, just everything that was set up, even the infirmary where they were doing the, where they took the secretary and her boss, the senator, for their treatment or whatever to check them to make sure they're all right. When the Japanese pilot, got the weapon and all that stuff, even though that was kind of far-fetched for me because I've seen the training that these people go through for armament and how to use their weapons and all that stuff. And I just thought it was kind of lame how fast that one guy was able to take his gun from him after he'd been shot out of a plane and landed in the ocean. I mean, just, I don't know.
Yeah.
That was a little bit far-fetched, but, I could see how they had to have like some kind of intrigue to get the love juices flowing a little bit for that one character.
Yeah.
For the romance, because she's the only woman on this huge ship. I mean, I think they have women on ships like that now, right? Today.
That didn't happen until after '96 for the most part. You had your subtenders and your aircraft carriers got them in the early '90s. I want to say '92 to '94 was when the ACs were stuffed with women. And you want to talk about all these ships that had to go through new berthing and bathroom hallway. They had to revitalize and revamp all these ships that had women that were originally designed for men. Because like you would have like 70 feet where you'd be wearing a towel to the shower or your clothing if you so desire to just walk to the shower with your bag in hand. You could do that, but there would be like 70 to 100 feet sometimes, and that's on the subtenders and
Okay, don't.
And whenever women came on board, like all of a sudden we have to cut out these chunks of metal and pretty much put the berthing like right smack dab next to the bathrooms. And
I remember when I first, because I was only 18, and he was about to, he didn't get orders right away either, but I got to go look at some of the areas in one of the submarines. I don't know if it's an active submarine or not, but I remember when I got home, I went and I with some other young wives, and we bought stuff, for our husbands to take with them on the boats, when they left, whether they were on Gold Crew or Blue Crew or whatever. And I had bought a soap on a rope from Avon. Don't laugh, but I gave it to him, and he's like, "What is this for?" And I go, "Well, I was told that you don't want to bend over for soap if you drop it in the shower." And he goes, "There's no one else in the shower with me. I'm by myself."
Wow.
And he said he could barely bend over because it wasn't that much space, just like the rat.
Your showers are about 30 inches by 30 inches.
So what about the big men? I mean, how do the big men take a shower?
I don't know. There's really not big. We only had one big guy on the ship I was on the Defender, and when I was on the McCandless, we didn't have any super huge dudes. We had the McCandless was a mine countermeasure ship, so 84 men on a ship that was 250 foot long by about 50 foot wide. Okay, it was a small squat boat. The frigate I was on, McCandless, was about the same width, but it was almost double the length. It was crazy. And everything was just tinier on the mine countermeasure ship. If you were claustrophobic, good luck, because you would experience it a lot. You would experience like I can't turn around. I can't flip over in my bunk the way I want to. You learned how to make do with minimum movement. And the big guys getting in the shower was probably like a good reason to stop having extra portions at dinner. Not be such a a glutton. And one thing about the Navy, unless you're on the Fat Boy program, they feed you as much as you want. You you can go up for seconds or thirds. If it's steak and shrimp night, you will destroy the kitchen. They will be at zero steak and shrimp by the end of the hour, end of the hour and a half, because that's just how it is.
Well, Shadzar asked me about the wives, about the different movies and how portray Navy wives. With those few Navy movies that I watched, I thought they did a really good job on portraying a lot of the different wives, because I knew wives that were, as soon as their husbands were gone, they were out jumping everybody in town. And then there was other wives that were really good.
I
And
did
we,
not realize that you were in Pensacola.
so no, I was, is Pensacola in Orlando?
No, Pensacola's on the panhandle of Florida.
I was in 2 or 3 different little places there.
Yeah,
Uh,
they
well, then
that's
we
go ahead.
Fall, where he was training there, and then he became an instructor, and then we went to New England. So we traveled a lot. But the one thing was the shoot. Now I lost my train of thought. So, give me a minute. I gotta think about it. Somebody was talking about different things about how the wives handled different things, but I remember when because one of my sister's husbands was in the Navy too, and that's how I met my husband. I was introduced by her husband to another Navy guy. But I went to a class that they had some of the wives and new wives that hadn't, whose husbands they'd never had their husband go to sea or whatever, and they were trying to tell us what to expect when they came back after being on a submarine, because there's close quarters, the water, they use the seawater to make oxygen for the people to breathe, and that they're all going to get sick when they get off the boat because they have clean, scrubbed, germ-free atmosphere, basically, because they don't come up. That's the whole thing, is to stay hidden, right? Which was bad because he can't call anyone, so I didn't hear from him for 6 months, unless he came up somewhere and he could call. So there was no way to even know if he was even alive. I mean, and he said it was real bad, was that they'd have drills, and they didn't know whether they really were going to war or whether or not their family would even be there when they came back. Stuff like that. I thought it was pretty dramatic, but I tried to understand, but you just can't because you're not there. But I remember them telling me that when they come back, they won't have depth perception because of the close quarters.
Yeah.
So like that. So that was kind of cool, because when I went to pick him up, I had to do all the driving, and then he got sick and I had to take care of him, got to baby him and stuff. So that was kind of nice. It was almost like, I don't know, I can't explain it. It was almost like a honeymoon all over again. Every single time they came back from being out to sea. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I thought that was kind of neat. But that's what I was going to say. So I don't know where we didn't get back to the movie or whatever. I don't remember where we were.
That's fine.
But interesting. That's why I was saying, though, it reminded me of it, just that all the parts with the sailors, the military stuff, and the way the ship was run, even the mess hall and everything, to me seemed very realistic.
Out of all the movies that Shadzar mentioned, like McHale's Navy and Top Gun, other films like that, this one here probably is the most authentic military film for the U.S. Navy. There might be others, but I don't think they'd be nearly as fun to watch. Bruce Shadzar asked me if they have a question about close quarters, as Janet does. Would you compare life on a ship to COVID lockdowns? No, not really, because you're kind of forced to share every virus that you come in contact with your bunk buddies, and I call them bunk buddies because like some services, like the sub service, Janet hasn't mentioned it, but more than likely, submariners have to share their rack with somebody, so you get to sleep in it for 6 hours, and somebody else will come by with their own sheets and take you've already taken your sheets off and you've got them stowed away. They'll come along and rack in your rack. It's not your rack, by the way. It's U.S. Navy's rack. But
Yeah.
somebody will bring their sheets and curl up on there
Yeah, and
So
each had different jobs. Like some people were in the engine room, some people took care of the water, and that kind of stuff, and then or worked in the, the kitchen or the galley or whatever. And then you had people that run the radars, and people were in charge of the nuclear warheads, and then other people were in charge of running the nuclear energy, thing. And that's what my husband was involved in. He was the nuclear
your
person.
husband was a bubblehead. Okay.
Yes. What is that? What's a bubblehead?
He was a submariner that dealt with the nuclear reactor.
Well, I teased him a lot and called him Elmer Fuddhead. So, and
Wow.
we're really mad at him. I would tell him I was going to take his, is they called an optometer or something? I was going to
Yes.
microwave, get him in trouble. So, yeah, I was mean.
So okay. Um, but out of like all the films I ever watched about U.S. Navy, and I've not seen Men of Honor. I've heard it's good. Uh, I've not seen that one yet, and I probably will see it sometime this year because it is on my list. I like Cuba Gooding Jr. Not a super Robert De Niro fan, but I do like Cuba Gooding Jr. And there are a bunch of mob films I like that have De Niro in them, so it is what it is. But
I don't think I've seen it in a Honor movie. I might
but
have to.
so when that time tunnel hits and they're listening to the radio program, what did you think?
Oh, when it changed to the other channel and they were talking, it was like a fight. It sounded like a
Yeah,
match or something. I thought that was pretty cool and ominous to me because the look when they all looked at each other like who's playing the prank, you know what I mean?
yeah.
They
We
all had
can't
that
reach.
face like they're like, okay, what's going on? Because they knew it wasn't right. That would definitely not be what they would normally hear on armed forces, you know,
Yeah,
radio. So I thought that was very good, and I thought they all did a real good job at that part of it.
we call Armed Forces Radio AFARTS.
Oh,
That's
well,
what it looks like
here
when you look at the acronym AFRTS. AFARTS. That's what you see.
yeah, they do a lot, I guess, in the have letters for everything.
There's an acronym for everything if you study it long enough.
Okay, well, I'm glad I didn't have to study that stuff.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying that even if it wasn't an official acronym, it gets an acronym. Everything gets a nickname or an acronym, and people that get butthurt about that, that's why we make acronyms and nicknames for shit because somebody's going to get upset.
But they,
It's the only way you have of being an individual in the Navy.
what was the name of the man that was like the host on the ship that was writing about Pearl Harbor? I don't remember his name. Actor, Commander Richard Owen. Yeah, James Ferrantino.
Yeah,
Yeah, his dad, Commander Richard Owens, or whatever. That guy's character, he seemed very. He seemed to me like him and Kirk Douglas seemed like they definitely practiced or spent a lot of time around military people to act like they were in the military. I mean, does that make sense to you? What I'm saying? They came
like
up.
they spent some serious time on a base or at a port together, and just kind of got acclimated to people.
Yeah, that's what they just seemed. I don't know. It wasn't too far fetched for me to accept them as real military men,
No,
especially when the one came up with the thing around him when they were picking them up out of the ocean from the yacht being blown up. When he had that dog and stuff, it just seemed like he seemed nonchalant, like he'd been picked up by that thing 4 or 5 times, but he'd been on a lot. So that seemed realistic too to me. But maybe I'm just easily duped. I don't know. But it seemed real to me. That was very authentic.
I can tell you that the Navy spent a lot of time going over the script, and they tried to do everything they could to get it within their specs of quality and what at the time was quality. in my opinion, it's probably the highest quality Navy film I've ever seen. Although other people are saying, no, you got to watch Men of Honor, or you got to watch the Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson movie, and I can't remember the name of that. But I used to not be so forgetful. Damn you, COVID. Damn you, COVID fog. Anyway, it's pretty interesting that you have the Navy got so involved with making sure that things were portrayed authentically. Because there's a lot of parts of this movie where it gets it right. They had an opportunity to make a parade boat event where it just looks like, oh, come join our Nimitz class aircraft carrier, and everybody's in dress blues and saluting each other, and it's just one big happy fucking family. And it's pretty realistic. It's the way that the officers get along with each other looks pretty realistic, and you have a few instances where you have chiefs interacting with the officers. In the Navy that I was in, the chiefs are there to basically take the heat off the enlisted, off lower enlisted, and to just make sure the officers are placated. We're doing our job. Everything's going as planned. Everything is fine. Don't worry about it. And you have a few interactions like that on here, and you have the rest of the enlisted guys doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It seemed like a lot of the people that were in the actual movie seemed to me that they were real military men, because then they used them as the extras in the scenes because they seemed very authentic. You know, like they all knew they were all doing real jobs. So I don't know. But I wonder too is do you think there was a lot of people that joined the Navy after they saw this movie?
I would probably say there was a small bump in recruitment, and not among the officer class. More than likely, the enlisteds had a bump. This movie was produced by Peter Douglas, which is Kirk Douglas's son, and he was only 25 at the time when this movie was put in the theaters. No, not 25. He was like 27.
Yeah.
But he put together this movie with his dad's help and had his dad involved with it. And Kirk Douglas has been around military guys quite often. I don't know if he was ever a military guy. I'm searching right now to see if his daddy was a Army or Navy or some such. But he seems like he was just a really good guy. There's some, of course, some bad stuff on his Wikipedia, but you don't focus on that. I don't focus on that. I'll just say that. And I really like looking at how this movie was made because it looks like they cared about it.
Well, see,
the things go ahead.
About some of the military movies that I did get to watch, because my dad really liked a lot of the, and my mom too, she liked a lot of the, depending on the movie, but she liked a lot of the, my mom was like one that would cry every time Taps was played on the TV and stuff. And I never understood that till I got older and understood that Taps meant someone was dead, you know, that type of thing. But my mom was very, very, very patriotic, and because my grandpa was armed, you know, a lot of military people were in my family, uncles and my dad and all that. He didn't want any of us girls to join the service because he said that really wasn't a place for a woman. I think I told you that before. But you know, right. Women shouldn't do it just because he thought it was up on a woman.
Well, the service didn't do the ladies I know any favors. The ones that joined that I know, majority of them cuss and swear like they're male infantry. I mean, sailors. I'm going to say I've got a hot take here. A lot of Army guys want to own the 11 Bravo monkier, and 11 Bravo is a designation given to basic infantry that are in the Army. But it's weird when you look at the designations on a DD-214 because as just an undesignated seaman, I was classified as an 11 Bravo. And that's how sailors are designated. Even if you're just airmen or seamen or firemen, if you don't have an MOS rating, if you don't have a rate, then you're just general help.
Can I ask what that means? What's a rate?
A rate is a job, like storekeepers, like ships, like mess specialist, like a shopkeeper, somebody that does laundry, to radar operators, sonar operators, quartermasters, something like that. And you have all of these different rates, which are in the military. For the Navy, you have all these guys that they have different jobs, and they make the boats go places and do stuff. Here's that Zero, that pilot, that for some odd reason he was not shook up, didn't have a shoulder bruise or nothing, and he's able to disarm one of the Marine guards.
But he looked so familiar to me. I wonder what other movies he was in, because when I saw him, I'm like, I've seen him before, but I didn't know who he was.
Well, let's take a look at his movies. He was in Mulan in 1998. He was a sensei in Beverly Hills Ninja with Chris Farley. He was the man with the golden gun. Oh, he was hip. He was hip. Holy shit. And he's in the Missing in Action 2. He was Colonel Yin.
And that's it?
He's in a lot of different movies, but not really nothing. He's not been in anything since 2006.
I don't recognize any. I never saw any of those movies, I don't think. So I like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, those type of movies. I love those kind of movies. I love love those fights, Bruce Lee stuff. My dad loved all that stuff, and I loved those movies, samurai movies.
Is your dad still around here where you're at?
Remember, I told you that's what we've been working on. He fell and hurt himself, and trying to help him. Now we finally got rehab set up for him and stuff, so him rehab enough to where he can get around better once his brace is done for his leg. Then he should hopefully get to go back home and take care of himself. That's what we're hoping. But we're taking turns because we each have jobs and we things that we have to do, so one of us can't just quit our job and take care of our dad, So we're all trying, us three that live near each other where we can help, we're trying to do tag team stuff and get him some care so that we don't have to do all of it. This has been really hard because that's a lot of phone calls, a lot of paperwork, a lot of trips to the VA and other places. That's what we've been trying to do.
Hey, grumpy old Ninja Kintaro, how are you today?
What a name.
I love that name. Yeah. I think it was great to see that's an honest look at ship life, especially on an AC aircraft carrier, because you have everything is cramped. When you're in the Navy, just get used to it. You can't stretch out. It's not possible. The only way you can stretch out is if you are on surface and you can walk out on weather decks, and then you can stretch out and touch your toes and bend over without having somebody get behind you. Excuse me, I'm trying to make a hole, and things like that. And by the way, the greatest saying in the world is make a hole. Because if you're in a military town and you got somebody hogging up the fucking cereal aisle because they're seeing their best friend or cousin.
Hate that.
Shannon, I just love this way that everything's been so nice since school started. Little Tyler is just taking that. Everything is going well for Tyler. And his sister Annie is doing so well in chorus. And make a hole! And all of a sudden, those women part the Red Sea. You civilian types, you guys that never touch the military, I'm going to give you something. I want you to take the phrase, make a hole. I want you to use that in your everyday vernacular. When you see people in foot traffic that are in your way, you throw those 3 words out and be surprised, because you could be doing nothing. You could be there with your hand on your pecker, or you could be there thumbing through your phone. You hear make a hole, and oh shit, let me get out of the way. And you really you have to do it, because that's the etiquette. You are supposed to to understand that you're supposed to step aside. Somebody's trying to get through here. And everybody just needs to understand what make a hole is. I did that a lot in 97, 96.
You get the same etiquette when you're driving down the road, okay, and it's 2 lanes on this side, 2 lanes on the other, and then you see in the distance an ambulance coming, and you don't see anybody getting the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
And I'm on the other side of the road. I'm even thinking about pulling over. I'm not even on the same strip of road as the ambulance, but because I grew up that when you saw a police, ambulance, or fire truck, or even a funeral profession, you move over and get out of the way out of respect for these people so they can get where they got to go.
Exactly.
But to do that, don't even want to pull over for buses anymore. It just hogs the road. Everything's out for me all the time, and I get tired of that myself.
Shadzar's like, it was even in The Princess Bride, Bruce. Everybody move. I love it.
But I hadn't heard that in a very long time.
What, make a hole?
Yeah, make a hole, because when you're raised in a certain environment, you travel around. That was very, very hard when we moved. We got out of the.
Hold on just a moment. I've got a visitor.
You got a what? A visit?
My air conditioning.
Oh, his air conditioning guy's there to fix, so he won't be sweating all night. Yes, thank you very much for asking me a couple questions. It makes me feel special. And I'm trying to read it. I'm not very good at using all tech stuff, but I'm learning. Really trying.
Yeah, it's better it's called before to farm. But any problem or any part, I need to pick it up to the store or something like that. I don't have any.
I don't even know. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, but the answer survey is everything is called in the day. But you put it at work online or go to the office. I don't know, Fernando.
Is it somebody?
Go to the office, but sometimes you forgot the ladies or something like that.
In of honor.
I go another thing, but I think this is only I need to replace the capacity or something like that. It's not, but it's inside the forum.
It's like I never anymore.
But with this manager, after 8, I can do it, but I know it's that occurring to many accidents or something like that. But another is okay. I work in 11, 1 in the morning, but it's okay for me. It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, his mic is.
It's a condenser motor. But another side is only jump to this room to another room, pick it up inside. It's very easy. Okay. Yeah, but it's fully right now. But it's okay. But I don't have it time right now. But it's okay. Come tomorrow, maybe after 1 or check one more time the charts. Okay. Yeah, bye.
So Shadzar, you saw The Princess Bride? I never watched. I have no idea what's even about. Sorry, I'm not very good at reading and talking at the same time. I guess I'll have to check that out. My sister's all watched Princess Bride. It was really good.
Sorry it took so long. I'll go back to my stream. Yeah, you and both. I didn't mean to leave the stream. I'm sorry, guys.
That's okay. It was just very loud, and I couldn't understand hardly nothing he said. So I hope you guys.
No. It was in another room, and there's like a bunch of walls between there and here. And Fernando said that my AC is going to work for at least 24 hours. He's going to check it tomorrow at 1 in the afternoon to make sure that it's got all its moving parts the way it's supposed to. We'll put it through the checklist. But the AC that we have here sucks because the parts break frequently. Frequently.
Oh well, I'm sorry.
It happens. Yeah, Grumpy Old Ninja, whatever movie you're talking about, if it's Final Countdown or The Princess Bride, both those movies should be watched at least once a year.
I've never seen The Princess Bride before.
All right. Well, I know what my next choice is.
Yeah, I mean, you guys saw a movie, a princess movie? It sounds kind of weird.
I'm perfectly fine in my masculinity by recommending anybody watch The Princess Bride.
Yeah, I like Carrie Hughes, so I might like him. I loved him in Saw. I thought he did really good in Saw.
He was great in Saw.
Mm-hmm.
Andre the Giant is in this movie, and so is Billy Crystal.
Yeah, I like Billy Crystal. He was really funny in I can't remember the name of the movie. One where he was a cowboy, a cowpoke.
Oh, The Legend of Curly's Gold. City Slickers.
Or City Slickers, that's the one. Was Martin
City Slickers 1 and 2.
or what was his name? You know, the one of the wild and crazy guys or whatever. What was it? Steve Martin. Steve
Yes.
Martin.
I haven't seen a good Steve Martin film in forever. It's one guy. I don't think he quit making movies. I just think he went to like doing Broadway plays.
I thought he started playing in a band or something.
He might have.
So I thought I saw him on a couple like TV shows or whatever playing in a band. But I don't know. That might have just been a TV show. But I don't know. I think he played in a band. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I really get a kick out of the older films, and that's why I'm really enjoying doing this series with you. I hope this lasts for quite a while because, like, one, you haven't seen a whole lot of movies, and I can just like throw films at you, like, oh, you like this one, oh, you might like this one.
I was shocked when you started doing this. Started going through some of the older movies, and I was like, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen so many movies. It's amazing. What did I ever do?
Well, you were.
Definitely.
Obviously that you were like me, you were sheltered, and secondly, you did have a life before we got on YouTube, and so I think that kind of illustrates my points really well.
Yeah, people make fun of me now because they're like, "Do you ever go anywhere without your phone?" I'm like, I can't even remember what it was like without having a phone. Now, I mean, thinking about it, it's weird how technology you just absorb it into your life and it takes over.
I'm a big fan of not looking down at my phone a lot, so these streams are great because I try to see how long I can keep the phone out of my hands. I absolutely hate my phone.
Well, I have to look at the phone. It's the only way I can read the chat when I'm on here. Normally, when I don't look at the chat, I'm working on a picture or something.
One of these days, we'll have to find an old mid-tower unit for Janet to get through the mail or something.
What's a mid-tower?
A mid-tower unit is a desktop PC.
I have one, but I don't know how to use this stuff. I can't even make videos on it because I don't know how to do anything. Just like I was asking you those dumb questions about putting links and stuff on. I could do all that on my computer, but I don't know how to do stuff there. Unless I take the whole computer apart, put it in my car, and drive to the Geek Squad and ask them to, put this together and show me how to do this stuff. That's the only thing I could think of doing.
Okay, Janet, I'm not going to call you boomer because I know that's disrespectful to anybody unless you're. But I'm going to say that you need to have like a niece in your life. You really do. A niece or a nephew would fix so many of your issues.
How to use Xboxes and those, what do you call those glasses that you wear and walk around and do stuff?
Oh, the VR headsets?
Yeah, they know how to do that. They know how to do a lot of things. They just don't know how to help me. I can get on there and go, I set up my own website for like my certain things that I do for my work, you know.
Mhm.
But when it comes to making videos and things like that, I've never done it before. When I first started doing it, I always made them on my phone, so I had to do anything. So I just never had done it, and I would love to do it because Xbox is way easier to play than to play or set videos up and work on them. And I've asked lots of guys that are on YouTube right now, how do I do this and how do I do that? And they're like, I don't know. So there we go. Some of them aren't even that good at it. But there's a bunch of young guys that I've been talking to on Discord and stuff that are trying to help me because me trying to figure out what I want to do too. That's another thing. Is how do I want to do it? But we're off its course again, so we'll go back to the movie again. But yes, I thought that the whole part when it started getting the whole idea of them going through a time portal or something like that, astrophyric, phenomenon or whatever you want to call it. That part I thought was really good, but I don't think they spent enough time trying to kind of give us a little heads up on what had happened.
What's exactly going on with that?
Yeah, and how a whole ship went in and no other ship. Nothing else that was in the ocean went through it, supposedly, that we know, except for the planes. Remember, everything that was on the ship ended up going back through the porthole, which I thought was
Everything involved seemed to just be suckered back into that time portal, that time tunnel, and after that, it's.
I felt that maybe the government was involved because they put something on the ship to make that when they got to a certain spot on the ocean that would cause the anomaly to happen. And that's why on the ship went through it, but they didn't put enough. I didn't see enough of that in there to explain that part of it. But maybe they didn't want to, or they wanted to leave it open for people's interpretation of it. But then the ending made it seem like something more might have been involved.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I was wondering if the senator was involved with it all from the start, because he made his way to Pearl Harbor, made his way to get the badge to go and see the Nimitz before it takes off on its fateful voyage. It changed his life forever. And it's kind of weird how all of that stuff just came down. It's just kind of like magic. But
Yeah. And in a way, it kind of seemed like, just like you said, that remember when you first saw Martin Sheen go in there and find those things on his desk, then you're thinking, why does he have all that stuff on his desk? What's he doing? And then the anomaly happened. So you're thinking, oh, he's involved with the government to try to get them to go back in time to do something. Okay, maybe it was a test to find out whether they would do it, or because Martin Sheen's character was the one that kept trying to talk him into it, how we could change the future and all this different stuff, not the other guy, the Richard Owens guy, the commander, the history buff guy. So, I don't know. I just thought those two aspects of it were very interesting, and that I wish they'd put a little bit more detail into the showing us that.
That's one of the big complaints this movie gets, is because it could, with another 10 minutes of proper script and editing, they could have had more answers, and it could have been a little bit more satisfying. I'll just say that it definitely is. It skimps on answers. It gets the sailors back to where they started, and they have a new appreciation for now. And the thing is, I think if you were one of those guys on board that ship,
The experience would be super awesome.
it would be super awesome. But at the same time, every time you have, if you stay in the Navy long enough, you're stuck. You're going to be stuck one of these days at a parade in full uniform, and all you're thinking of in your head is everything else that's gone on in your life, because your body is busy being immobile. You're just there as a prop, which is what most parade events are. Thank you for being a prop. I have 700 of you, or I have 2,000 of you, or I have 5,000 of you all lined up at parade rest, and you do various stupid human tricks. That's great, but and that's what it is. But it does teach you teamwork and how to rely on other people and such. But I have to say that you're on parade rest, and like if you were me, and in 1993 you made your way down to Port Isabel, Texas, where we have a remembrance memorial event where we had 30 people that were part of the VA and American Legion showed up, and everybody comes out and puts the ship on parade rest, and we had a parade basically, and about 400 people not invaded, but came back to Port Isabel to look at the ship and to talk about things and remember 1941, which at the time I was kind of upset. Like, really? We're still talking about this? But after been around my grandparents a few years after my Navy service, I got to hear what it was like. And so it brought more of that to the forefront. I can see why these guys are doing this year after year after year. And I had no reverence for it. I had none. And that's the bad part about being young.
Ever been to a parade where you weren't in a parade? You just got to watch it?
I was as a kid, but when you're a kid, like, and you're at a parade, you can move your head around, you can talk to your buddy, you can, hey, let's do this, hey, let's do that, let's go grab some candy real quick or do stuff. When you're in the parade as part of the military, you're there as a human prop. You're marching, you're trying to stay in cadence, you're trying to stay within this tiny acceptable window to walking in perfect step, and you have the right movements. So like I said, you're a human prop. You're a good unattended human puppet, and you have a routine you have to do.
Did all the guys in those parade stuff all feel like that?
I don't know. A few of them do. Most of them I know just they deal with it. They put up with it because afterwards there's beer. I did a good thing. Give me beer. All right, son, you did good. Here's your Milwaukee's best. Oh God, Milwaukee's best. No,
my parade, even now as a grown up, and I get to watch it, I look at it and I just think it's just I just love it. I just love, especially any parade that has to do with pride in our country. I mean, I just like that.
Okay.
Even the parades that we have in New Orleans, where they're throwing beads at you. But what's funny, my favorite parade is the Irish Italian parade, because they throw everything to make Irish stew. So you have to really pay attention, because they throw cabbages, potatoes, carrots, and stuff like that, along with stuffed animals and baubles and whatever else, which is a lot of fun. But that's my favorite one, because the guys come down, they're wearing, you have the Irish guys and you have the Italian guys wearing nice suits or whatever their outfits are that they chose for their parade, because they usually have people around each parade float wearing matching clothes to go with their whatever theme is of their float, and they'll grab you and they'll dip you and give you a rose or give you a kiss and stuff like that, and it's just fun. It's a lot of fun. So whenever I have friends that come to visit, I try to take them to the Irish Italian parade if they come.
Okay.
That time.
I've never been to that one. Usually when I go to a parade, I go there because the military or military members are there in full dress. And it's my goal to at least be like, hey, you guys doing okay? You need a beer? And once I've passed on my penance, once I've given away my $20 worth of swill beer or Bush or Anheuser products, all right, guys, I'll see you at the VA. Talk to you later. And that's where it goes. That's the way Bruce used to be. I'll be like, all right, you guys okay? Did you get your good boy beer? And that's usually how I view it. I don't mind parades, and I hate to sound like I'm being a detriment on them, but for the most part, that's just when you're learning the movements, that's what goes through your head, and you're like, oh, I got to get better at this. Oh, I got to get better at this. I got to be more on point. Got to be more on task. And eventually you get it. Eventually you do. It's just you have to put your time in, and that's just with anything involving muscle memory, you have to give your body long enough time to acclimate to where you will be able on your rhythm to perform the necessary steps. But I view parades as primarily, oh, it's a human puppet show. And I know that probably isn't the right way to look at it, but
It's just that when you first said, when you saw this movie, how excited you were as a little boy, and that you thought that maybe this might be one of the reasons why you joined the
the
Navy.
Navy, yeah,
So
and
that
that
big-eyed boy that was enthralled into the plane and the excitement and everything that he thought he saw was dashed when reality hit him and realized what it was really like to be in the military. That's what it sounds like. That's kind of
and
sad.
it is kind of sad, but I mean, it took me a few years to get over it because, like, majority of my time in Ingleside, we had a captain on board the USS Defender. Immediately after his station, after his tour on the Defender ended, he was whisked off to naval college, to Naval War College, because they thought he had a good way of running people into the ground. I mean, I didn't mean to say that, but I mean, he had a good way of being an administrator. Yes, yes, that's it. And you, you have bad mentors or bad bosses, and you just have to give it time for your body to heal and for you to put some distance between there to where you can actually understand what happened and what your part of that entire endeavor was. And when it's over, you just have to learn how to let go. It's like, okay, well, that's over. We don't have to deal with that terrible person anymore. And he was pretty much a terrible fucking person. Like, there's there's not a there's not a day that goes by where I think of my buddies on the USS Defender, and whenever I get around to remembering that guy's face, it's like, damn him, because there was like 6 guys that were on board that ship. The Defender was only staffed for 84 people, but in the 2 years I was in, the 1 year I was on the Defender, 6 guys got ushered out on bad conduct discharges because he did not agree with their way that the Navy was, and those guys were really old guard West Coasties that were shuffled to Texas for some reason, and they weren't bad people, but they had a different mindset, and it did not gel well with his upper crust Connecticut living. I'll just say that. He's that type of guy that would go to the Hamptons, and that was his idea of a good time. Not really the Hamptons itself, but just all the rubbing shoulders with American nobility and all the oligarchs that go there and all the people that want to be seen coming out of there shaking hands with these other people. And so that kind of colored my experiences, not for the better, but that's just me being honest. And
Yeah.
when I saw this movie again years after my time in the service had ended, I have a lot of appreciation for it because it really doesn't go in to the Hollywoodism of the U.S. Navy as it does in so many other films like A Few Good Men or A Few Good Men. McHale's Navy doesn't really have that because that's a good comedy movie. And it's they use the Navy as a prop in of itself to tell the story, but
Yeah.
this movie gave a very honest assessment of what you see with the wardrobe.
Yeah, but the comment you made earlier about it was the fact that if they put 10 more minutes into it or whatever to explain certain things. But
Yeah, I'd love to see them explain what happened with that time tunnel. Like, was
yeah,
that something that was artificially
way
spawned by Lasky?
yeah, but if you think about it, in a way I can kind of understand what they did. They have time constraints because most theaters don't want certain movies if they're too long because it takes money away from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of adding something and taking the military, planes taking off and different things like that the pilots got to do and how the ship works. You know what I'm saying? They could have took a bunch of that out and put something else in it with the actors, but they kept the important parts. Just like I said, it almost seemed like a documentary at the beginning.
Yeah. And it was really filmed more like a documentary in the first act, especially.
That's what made it seem real. It made it. I think it kind of brought it down to more of a that this could be a reality, or was it a reality? Did it happen? You know what I mean. I mean, I know that sounds. I really think that the way they filmed it, and by leaving in some things and taking something else out, or not filling in the gaps, it's really left up to the now, if I'd seen it when I was younger, I might have been able to see more of I don't know, read more into it. But seeing it as a grown up, I'm already stuck in my point of view when it comes to the military and things. You know what I mean? So, like I said about Martin Sheen's character, to me, you could have taken him completely out of the movie and it would have been just as good. I mean, that sounds terrible, but because a lot of people liked him, and I think he's a good actor in different movies. But it was like they made this very small, limited part, just for him, to put him in it. To put them in the movie, when they could have used a historian a little more, working with a captain to figure out what was going on, to fill in some of the gaps.
Yeah. Martin Sheen was, I don't know if he was put in there and he had a different script on one of the earlier rights of the script. I think that might be the situation. What we got with him is not nearly what I feel we should have. He makes an interesting character. He puts some interesting pieces in play, but that's about really all he does.
But and he really didn't even put any pieces in play that had anything to do with his actual job and why he was on the ship.
Yeah.
See, so that's what I mean. To me, it was like either put him in there, they put him in there to make it look like he was involved in why it happened, and then him pushing the guy to maybe, take out the fleet, that he could take the fleet out in no time because they had nuclear warheads. Or aircraft carrier. But so I don't know. To me, when I was writing, I didn't even realize it until I was writing my pages down. I'm looking, I'm like, I don't even have his character written on this, because he was, to me, very not needed to explain the movie to someone, or what stood out to me about the movie. So
I think he was put in because at the time he had a good rapport with Kirk Douglas and with Peter Douglas.
And he was a big name.
Yeah.
Right?
Didn't he just come off of Apocalypse Now?
I don't know. I never watched that movie either. See, I wasn't really into war movies because to me it was too realistic. Like Shawshank Redemption, I did watch that, and it was very gruesome. Some parts of it, the Green Mile, I thought that was gruesome. Seven, it was really, but it was more of a thriller. It wasn't a movie where people might get blown up or something like that, military taking them out or whatever. So I don't know. I have watched a lot of military movies, but it seemed like in this era time, in the 80s, there were so many of them, and I just didn't want to watch them because I just thought it was not my interest. I mean, I liked like Seven, and I liked Cape Fear, Pretty Woman, but was this way different times when these came out?
Pretty Woman and Cape Fear was 87 and 89, I believe.
Okay, well, I like those, and I like True Lies. I don't know when that came out, but I loved it.
94.
I didn't even watch the Titanic, and everyone was like, "Oh, you gotta watch it," but I never did see it. It was okay. I mean, I guess, but I don't miss that I didn't watch it. But it was a romance to me, is what it looked like from the trailer, and I wasn't into romances either. Romance movies.
It was a good movie if you wanted to watch a Leonardo DiCaprio film. If you want to watch one of his movies, if you want to see him act, he actually acts in that movie. I wouldn't say he was a great actor, but he acts. Okay, he earned his SAG wage. I think the movies that you're talking about are like all after 84, which is fine. but I don't know what happened with you before '83. Like you said, you had a big family, so you watched a lot of movies in front of the TV. Like you'd load up the car and we're going to go to the Blockbuster, and you guys could, affordably watch movies with Blockbuster. I miss Blockbuster.
Back riding. I went camping and hiking, and
Yeah,
you know,
outdoorsy stuff.
it was very hunting. I mean, I did a lot of things outside. I mean, I liked being outside, depending on where I lived, whether it was winter or not, because that seems like I remember watching more and more movies in the winter because I spent more time outside. Because I just, and I still do. As soon as the weather starts getting better, I start going outside more because I like being outdoors, and sunlight is good for you. I think that's why so many people have gotten sick recently. It's because being in the house and not producing your own vitamin D, because of the sun, your natural exposure to sun and things like that. I don't think that's healthy.
No, it's not healthy at all.
Um,
That's one thing that people have forgotten. That whenever you go outside, you do actually, breathe in a little deeper. You actually expand your lungs by trying to inhale every last fresh breath you got before your neighbor starts clipping grass and giving you a mild,
like right now,
sneezing fit.
Because of my allergies, but plus I was into vampire movies. I love vampires. So everything that had vampires in it, I would go see it because I was into that.
Did you ever see Near Dark?
See what?
Did you ever see the movie called Near Dark?
Sounds familiar to me.
Okay, it's a vampire film.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're off topic, guys. Get used to it.
Sorry.
I'm not trying. Sorry about this. Aliens came out, and Gail Ann Hurd is the wife of James Cameron, who directed Aliens.
Uh-huh.
And I love that movie. The next year, she does a pre-divorce test run by taking half of the Aliens crew, like she took half of James Cameron's money, and she makes a vampire film called Near Dark, which Near Dark is not like a movie where there's a vampire lord and he's going to take over the world. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's a vampire movie where it's actual vampires living in a van, going from place to place, causing mischief, and before the dawn starts, get in the van again or get inside a hotel room and sleep all day and avoid the sun because the sun makes them burn, which is great. They burn. They literally catch on fire. It's awesome. And you have Lance Hendrickson. You have the lady that played Vasquez from Aliens. That lady,
Sure.
she's in it. And then you have Bill Paxton.
Oh, I love Bill.
Yeah, I love Bill.
Loved him in Twister.
This movie, you're going to love him a little more.
Wasn't he in Tombstone too?
He was.
Oh, I loved Tombstone. I thought that was such a good movie.
I can't complain with his movie choices. The last movie I saw him in was Edge of Tomorrow, and I thought that was a fucking damn near perfect Tom Cruise movie. Hang it up, Tom Cruise. You'll never make a better film. And everybody's telling me right now, Bruce, when Maverick comes out, you owe it to yourself to take your wife and go see it because it's a good movie. Okay.
It's out already?
Not yet. It comes out later this month. I've got a few friends.
Block to it because Top Gun was so good.
Top Gun is I don't know. I think that movie's the director of photography sold me more on joining the Navy than anything else because that came out in '87. But you see all these wonderful air effects that happen when the Tomcats come out of the clouds or they are doing their high-speed bank turns. I just, between that movie and the Tomcats, I'm going to call it Tomcat porn. Tomcat porn is so prevalent in the Final Countdown, and it's so good. They do so well. I mean, they burned a lot of money putting it through the afterburners of those jets. And they did so well with the photography of these jets, and they made them look good. Northrop Grumman should have made the Super Tomcat or whatever the following model of the Tomcat was, but we got fucked out of that. We got stuck with the Fighting Falcon or the F-16 or F-18, whatever it was. It wasn't the fighter I wanted.
Yeah.
I wanted Northrop Grumman to design a new version of the F-14. It was supposed to be the Super Tomcat, and Ward Carroll has a really cool video on what their plans were. Ward Carroll is a ex-Navy pilot that he is fantastic with his analysis of any flight videos, any movies that have jets screaming around in them. He does a very good breakdown, and he has a lot of real stories. He tells a lot of heartbreak stories where, you know, we're waiting on the deck of this carrier and this guy, he misses the tail hook and his plane goes over the edge of the ship.
Oh, I thought they had stuff to fix that from happening.
Yeah, stuff is supposed to happen, but he has a few sad stories on his channel. I'll get Ward Carroll. Hold on. But this guy, whenever I have a question about pilot stuff, I always go back through his files because he's really thorough. And the guy's the next Tomcat pilot, so I think he's one of the best voices out there. But,
so does the YouTube channel talk about what he did when he was, flying?
Yeah, his is mainly his career as a Navy pilot, and as hobby, he does do a little bit of music. You'll see in his a lot of his videos, he has a Marshall stack behind him, but he goes pretty deep on a lot of material, even on the UAP phenomena that the Pentagon released. The Nimitz and a few other ships had UFO videos come out not long ago, and he goes really deep on it. But he's a fantastic YouTube creator, and I like watching him, just listening to this guy talk about old military service, because he brings it back. He served, and he was a good officer. He has his head on his shoulders still. He's not a career drunk like a lot of them I know. But whenever I have a question about flying, I usually go to his channel because usually he's already covered it. The guy could teach at a university on the amount of things he's forgotten.
Yeah.
He's very good. But all the Tomcat shots and Top Gun and Final Countdown are just fantastic, and it's probably the reason why it's probably my favorite fighter jet of all time, even better than the A-10 Warthog, which most of my other military service buddies get serious wood whenever they hear that, because there was like 300 rounds that just went off, another 300 rounds. They don't call the pilots in the A-10 a pilot, they call him a stick operator.
Yeah,
they designed the entire jet around the gun.
I liked the planes that they used and how they each had their own signatures on them.
Yes.
Now, for each of the pilots, I guess they're able to put their own, stamp of approval or whatever on their own planes that they fly.
You're allowed to stencil on your own jet.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really cool. And I loved when they showed all these different the planes when they refueled it, all the different aspects that they put on there. You could just tell that a lot of love for the Navy went into this movie. To me, I mean, as a person that wasn't in the military but was around that type of stuff, to me it just seemed like whoever made the movie, and I didn't write all that down, who was involved, but you said that one of Douglas's sons was a producer of it. So apparently they wanted to show a certain side of the military, And the reason to do it, I think, was at the end when you figure out that they decide not to change the past. So it made them more honorable too,
Yeah.
which I thought was really good because it wasn't a movie made to show effects and stuff like they do today. Like the movie, what was the movie with the blue people and they had tails? And Avatar, I guess. The way that they portray the military in that, I kind of was sad about it because it made the military look like a bunch of animals that just want to go and rape other worlds, basically, and conquer them. And I've never looked at our military that way until I saw it in that movie, and I just was really saddened by it because the one thing I liked about the movie that we saw, this one, because to me it looked like they went out of their way to show us how wonderful our military is at protecting us, and a bunch of the honorable men that work on these ships is the reason why they're so successful. You know what I mean? That's what I got from it.
There was a comment in the chat to dovetail on what you just said. Chadzar earlier stated that out of all the military services, being in the Navy is the one where you get a second family. And you're around these people 24/7. You might not like everybody, but you get to be with them no matter where you go. And there'll be, you have port calls, you go off the ship, and pretty much the guy you couldn't stand 3 hours ago because he was flexing or he was doing something that just caused you to have your hackles get raised. Now all of a sudden, you and him were at the bar drinking, and you're acting like your best buds, which is kind of high schoolish. But majority of military guys are just fresh out of high school, so there is that. But you have a lot of that where you have the animosity and the rivalry, but when it's time to relax and let go, you can do that. And you're able to trust each other because if Tommy gets too drunk, we'll get Tommy back to the ship. But the next time we go out, Tommy's on daddy watch. And so he can't get nearly as wasted as he did last time. And that was how we did it. Like if one of the guys in our division got a little drunk, we'd make sure he'd get back. We'd even try to cover for him if it was possible. But there would be a penance that they would be due later on. And it worked out pretty well. There's a lot of ins and outs of military service, and I don't know how much about it. You sound like you were a good Navy wife, which means that you probably didn't know as much as others did, which is fine. But there's a lot of back scratching whenever somebody needs something. If you've got something you need, you can use that as leverage to get what you want later.
Yeah.
So you can do that.
A little of that here and there, especially when they were officers' wives, things like that.
Oh.
They did see better things, and things went easier for them.
Yeah. With the enlisted wives, things don't come easy. There's a lot of memes about the dependopotamus. I don't know if you're aware of that word or not, but I'm going to put it in your vernacular now.
Mm-hmm.
The dependopotamus is atypically a fat Army or Navy wife that basically will hitch a ride on some young man, and she'd be like, "You had me at TRICARE, baby." And it's all downhill.
Yeah.
It does not get better. Whenever he gets a promotion, she's there in the neighborhood. "Hey, Sheila, Tommy got a raise. He's now a second-class petty officer. I outrank you, Sheila."
Oh, I never saw that.
You never saw that? Okay.
No.
I saw that in Ingleside a lot.
Well, I mean, I never saw. I think I told you one story, remember? Didn't I tell you a story about that one Navy wife that I knew was not being good? She was being mean to me. Well, I'm not going to talk about it because I don't think it's appropriate. But that's one of the. I just never it was none of my business what all these other wives were doing. I just didn't put myself out there, and I didn't hang out with those people because I wasn't one of those people.
No.
I don't know. Maybe I'm naive or whatever and dumb when it comes to some of those things. But I wanted to go out and I partied and stuff, but I wasn't one of.
You weren't catting around.
Yeah, I was. I don't know, boring. One of the boring wives, I guess the men would say that. But
Yeah, fine. I'd much rather have my
why
friend have a boring wife,
why
friend have an
it's
exciting
so
wife.
long. That's because I was trying to be a good wife because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. I felt like that's what I was supposed to do. And
You have the idea.
actually,
That's the right idea.
so, unlike some of these other people. But that's why when that movie Officer and a Gentleman came out, I totally believed everything about how these girls all wanted to have an officer, because they thought that their shit didn't stink if you were married to an officer. You could get your nails done, go get your hair done, shop in the nicest places on the base, that stuff. But I was never like that, thank God. And I'm still not like that. I don't even think if I was rich, if I won the lottery, I don't think it would change my outlook on things in the way I might up my home, things like that, but I wouldn't be one of those people that had to dress in furs and whatever I just don't think it would change that way. I hope it would.
My experience was in Ingleside, Texas, and I'm just going to say that it's kind of like like San Antonio, but there's more flip flops involved.
Yeah.
So like no matter what, like it's a lot more casual over here, and you'd see like the officer wives occasionally, but you really couldn't tell. Well, you could tell who the officer wives were because um, they were really pretty, but they had a look about them like they were from somewhere else, like Connecticut or Nashville or somewhere where they valued the physical appearance much more than what we do down here. A lot of people down here, they're like, I don't have to go tan. If I want to tan, there's a beach. And where these other people were from, they had to keep up appearances.
Yeah.
But after they got to Corpus, after they got into Ingleside, it was a very small town mentality. Every ship was like 100 people or less, except for 3 of them, and those got decommissioned and sent out to other navies. So they didn't even last long. But you have very few Navy wives that kept up the New England traditions of being an insufferable person. They would typically acclimate and be like, I can be relaxed down here. I can have a second taco for breakfast. I can fart in a Walmart, and they did normal things.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to like my experience in Virginia Beach when I went on a deployment once, the reserves, it was a different environment. You could tell who the officers' wives were there because they had spent way too much money trying to keep up appearances, and they were going to be in debt for the rest of their life.
Mm-hmm.
They were not the type that would educate themselves on how to be financially smart. Their husbands were making the money; they just wanted to spend all of it, and it was a very different mindset than what I was used to in Texas. I'm thankful I only made it that far because I just did not. Once was enough. So
Well, the men are different because a man that wants a girl to look like $1 million is going to pay a lot of money for it, and a guy that doesn't care if she looks like $1 million all the time, then he's going to get more a down to earth woman that isn't going to spend $1 million to look like $1 million. You see what I mean?
correct.
So, I did stand out, and a lot of people made fun of me in my hometown when I would visit my parents and stuff because I never drank beer. I didn't like beer. I think beer tasted bad, but everybody cheap vodka, and I would be the one that bought the cheap wine. So I was a wino or whatever you want to call it, but I still like wine. Or I like champagne, things like that. I just like the way it tastes. I don't like beer. I still don't like beer. I just never acquired a taste for beer. When everybody would say, hey, we're going to go to keg. We're going to have a kegger tonight at the lake or whatever. And I'm like, well, have fun. Just didn't like beer. So I most of the time was designated driver all the time. So when I do something, I was always driving all the drunks home.
So the end of the film, you have them getting ready to take off. It's kind of interesting what happens on the island where the senator gets left and deposited.
Yeah.
I
Because
thought that was
and again in
Go ahead.
history, he was never seen again in history. Remember the history buff about it, and so was Martin Sheen's character when he was reading through the other guy's notes and stuff. That senator just disappeared, and he didn't want them to take him because they thought that they were involved in the cover up or whatever, the government,
yeah.
So, because they knew what happened in the future, they were all like suspicious of everybody. That part was really the intrigue of that.
And I thought that was pretty impressive that they were able to convey that emotion pretty well through the camera.
Mm-hmm.
I was impressed with that.
The actors were all really good at all their parts, I thought. Even Catherine Ross's part, she didn't have that much, but just to play the the feminine woman that's needing someone to save her, in the romance department.
Yes.
She just happens to get left on the island too.
What a shame that was.
Yeah, what a but you could tell by the way he saw her when he first saw her, making sure you got her dog and everything because he wanted to be her hero, basically. So you knew that was going to be a setup from that moment on in the movie that he was wanting to save her and that he was attracted to her, which probably everybody, she's the only woman.
Any guy on that boat, as soon as they smell that perfume, when that perfume smell hits you, I'll tell you this. You go without 2 weeks or longer without seeing a member of the opposite sex, and your gearing is normal where you are attracted to them. The moment you start smelling that, like you'd be on base in Great Mistakes or in boot camp. I'll just say this.
I remember that.
Every Friday is graduation day, and every woman that's got a little man getting ready to graduate, they would get overtly perfumed, and you would smell the perfume on the wind, and you would just hunger for the taste of either a kiss or skin or something naughty or just treat me bad, that sort of thing, or let me choke you or whatever it is, whatever your deal is. Like you go without for 2+ weeks, and then like you're looking forward to Fridays in boot camp because that's the day where the Rickies get their girlfriends and wives to come by, and you can smell it in the air. They're only about a quarter mile away, and it's drifting down to where you've got to drill and practice, and you're like, man, I love Fridays. And the boot camp commander we had, he caught that, and he's like, you like that smell, don't you? I said, uh-huh. He's like, God, you're terrible. You're 18 years old, and you don't even know what life's about yet, son. And I, what? When you're 18, you don't know what life's about. You just have been given the mantle of adulthood, but you haven't earned any recognition. You haven't had an actual test, of what you've done. Boot camp is not a horrible endeavor. It's just 8 weeks of camping with a bunch of dudes indoors for the most part. If you're Navy, if you're Marine or Army, you probably spend more time outdoors than we did, but it's a lot of indoor time in the Navy boot camp and a lot of seclusion from the female form. You have females on base, some of them teaching, and even the women that are like a regular 2, they suddenly are a 7. Hey, the book breaker. And like these women are teaching courses, and you have your buddy like lusting over it. Chapman, what are you doing? Trying not to stare at her boobs. They're huge. I said, yes, she's got no butt. She's not a real woman. She needs boobs and a butt. Otherwise, she's not allowed. And that mindset saved me for many years. I'll just say that. I could have been like one of my lost friends and just married the first thing I met, but I waited until I was 47. So I really I would always rib my buddies because like there'd be somebody that you'd see and like it's mostly female, but it's in a Navy uniform, so don't touch it. And your buddies are like, "Oh my god, I want to go out with it. I want to do stuff with it." Stop. If I could put tits on the ladder, you'd go fucking climb it so you could touch them.
You got to remember that everybody has their needs, and
Yeah.
nobody tried to force you to do certain things if you weren't ready. So just because your friend wanted to jump someone that you didn't feel was 100% attractive or whatever, doesn't mean they weren't attractive. And I wonder how many of your buddies are still married to those women.
We don't go to that question, Janet, because there's a jar that's broken from overstuffing that said Bruce was right on it.
Oh, well, did you keep the money?
I did keep the money. The
That's
only person I ever spent money on the Bruce was right jar was my friend Chuck, who was never a service member. When he was here in San Antonio with me, I made sure that the hotel we were in had frequent visitations from the paid class of companions, and I made sure that he had company for about an hour. So I was happy with that.
okay. And you knew he wasn't up with that person, right?
He liked her. We were evaluating the ones coming in and out for about a day and a half at the bar because the bar overlooked the greeting of this hotel. The hotel's name. Oh God, I can't remember that. Are you serious?
Well, I misunderstood because when you said you got him company, I thought you paid company for him. So that's why
I
you
did,
knew.
I did pay for the company that he got.
Oh, okay. But he liked
Okay, and the bar, yeah, he loved it because we got a chance
No,
to.
I thought when you said he liked her, that he was going to take her home with him.
He had just gotten divorced, and so he's basically got the same syndrome that most of these young men have fresh out of boot camp. You get divorced, like, oh, I gotta have sex with something, and so I made sure that we stayed at the El Tropicano Riverwalk Hotel.
Oh my God, that's funny.
That is a hotel that used to have a lot of frequent company from Craigslist people. Anyway,
Well, in Great Lakes area, I had a couple friends that were women that were in the military, and they would go and pay for a party, if you know what I'm saying. So there were those too. So it wasn't only for they had female entertainment too. Women.
and I think that's something our society needs to acknowledge, but we're not there yet. I know that sounds terrible, but I would much rather have a society that could at least put a value on that. Like, listen, you're just horny. Don't get married, son. And so many military spouses and bad military marriages would never have happened. But unfortunately, we don't do that. Um, I think that I'm going to steer it back on this movie just for a moment. I think at the end of this movie, you see that we have everybody wanting to interact with the wardrobe. They want to know what's going on. I'm pretty certain the enlisted staff on the carrier was also grilled. Anything that might have been of a secretive or secret nature was probably put into a vault after that. They don't really go into what happened to the crew afterwards. But when this movie was made, Kirk Douglas was approaching his 70s. I believe he was approaching his 70s. He was late 60s when this was filmed. And it was really impressive to see him still functioning, still. I mean, most guys his age in this movie were not getting around as well as he was. That guy was spry. He really was.
He took very good care of himself. Because the senator guy, the actor that played the senator, I mean, he looked older.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm gonna Google that real quick because I want to see who was
Charles Durning was the senator's name, and I don't think he took good care of himself. I think he's younger than Kirk Douglas in this film, and you can see what neglecting your body will do.
Yeah, he definitely didn't look younger. That's what I was saying. So it depends on the actors and actresses that spend time trying not to become the drug addicts and the drinkers or whatever, party animals. They definitely just seem to look better for their age in the in the long run.
And Shadzar says you can tell the movie if you can find a character in that movie that you can relate to on a personal level, the movie pretty much did its job. And it's not like you're trying to self-insert yourself in every movie, but if you're able to identify or you're able to feel like there's some closeness, or I identify with Theoden in the Two Towers, then Tolkien did what he was supposed to, and therefore, I mean, I would say that in this movie here, watching it over and over again, like I've got a healthy respect for about everybody in the wardroom. There's not a character in there that I wouldn't see as a friend if I was in that crew. But I've got to say that the character I probably enjoyed the most, it wasn't the captain. I really like Ron O'Neal as Commander Dan Thurman. There's something about the way he carries himself in this movie that he plays a really solid mentor. And when I was growing up, like he had the lines I liked. I liked the scenes he had, and I really was impressed with just how he was able to handle himself in this movie. And I probably should have paid more attention to Commander Richard Owens, played by James Farentino, because he was a historian, and he was the one that pretty much had the skinny on this entire situation.
Yeah, why when Martin Sheen got his paperwork and took it to the captain, he thought maybe he was involved in it. Now, I don't think the captain felt like he was involved, but I think Martin Sheen's character thought that maybe he was involved in something going on with the Department of Defense or something, a test of some sort or something. That's what it seemed like to me.
And it was interesting. There's a lot of bits of trivia in this movie that I find just amazing. You can find a lot of these on imdb.com. But like say in the mid 80s, the government of Hungary did not let this movie be shown in the country of Hungary. They felt it glorified the U.S. Armed Forces, and the illegal copies that were circulated on VHS with parts around Russia, they had the USS Nimitz edited out of it. It's one of the few movies that's made with full cooperation of the United States Navy, and a total of 48 real-life Navy sailors were actually credited in the closing credits for their performance as extras or artists or actors. Some had speaking parts, nothing huge, but they had like 1 or 2 days. And this movie, like I said, it's an actor's dream. If you want to see a bunch of extras at work, this is it.
Are you reading that from something?
Yeah, from IMDb.
Okay. Remember I said that I thought that it felt like they must have used a lot of the military guys that were actually on the ship because they acted professionally like they were in the military. They're believable that way to me. So that's why, because it was real military guys, which is great. I'm glad they got the chance to do that. It's something to tell their kids and grandchildren. But the part that I thought was the funniest in the movie was when the captain after he had sent those 2 planes out, okay, and then they found the senator and the woman and the dog floating in the ocean, and brought him in, and the senator was all mad and angry, demanding, beating his table, and talk to people. In the car.
Talk to me like this.
Yeah, and then the captain goes, "Let him radio get it talk." Because he knew that they weren't going to believe him when he started saying it, and then that guy on the radio that's telling him that's illegal what you're doing, pulling this stunt or whatever. I just thought it was funny. So that to me was it showed to me that the captain knew what the hell he was doing. This senator wants to push his weight around, let him. So I thought that was funny. I enjoy that.
A lot of this movie, the footage they used from Pearl Harbor was from another film called Tora 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 from 1970.
Hmm.
Now, the script called for the Japanese pilot to force the F-14 in the water, and the pilot who forced the water to kick up was Richard Fox Farrell. He's now retired. He kicked up a lot of seawater and pushed the envelope of the Tomcat. He was a real skilled pilot, and there's a few people that have talked about him on YouTube, but he had the director of photography just going ape shit when they were pulling that scene. Now the Zeros were AT-6 Texans, and they were converted, flying with the throttle to the stops, and the 14s were flying at their stall speeds. They were flying with their wings fully extended, and majority of the scenes, so they could get both aircraft in the shot at the same time. This is before CGI. I have to say this because some people won't realize it when they hear that. This movie was before CGI. This was all practical in-camera effects and the use of miniatures. Majority of it was all with jets. Real fucking jets, real JP5, and you're looking at about $100,000 an hour to keep them in the air.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was so impressed about this, the whole point of view they were giving you as a person that's not in the military, because most people are watching it on the theater or aren't in service. So it actually gave them a real point of view of what it's like to be on a battleship. At least that's what I felt. And I think even if I wasn't, raised in as a military brat, that I would have felt like this was realistic. I think everyone that watched it, I'm going to have to go back and read a bunch of the reviews, but if anybody, normal people were, I think on Rotten Tomatoes, you can see regular people's views on there. And I bet there's a lot of them that would say that they really felt like a documentary, something like that, because that's how it came to me. So it had a lot of realism in it to me for the military point of view of it. I just wish that if it was more balanced with the actual military point of view, the same way that they would have looked at the aspects of what was going on with the tunnel, or what you want to call it, the time tunnel, that it would have been just really, really balanced, more balanced to me, because it just seemed like it was a little bit off balance, because it was way, way more detail and emphasis put into the military part of it to make it real, compared to the aspect of it, a time warp or something. That aspect, if they put a little bit more effort to it, like you said, then it would have been a perfect balance to me as a viewer seeing it. But I thought it was really good. It's definitely something I would recommend people watch, because I thought, especially if you're interested on how the military works, especially preparing for battle on today's ships and things. Because I don't think it's that different today than it was when they made this movie with the actual aircraft carrier. I mean, I'm not saying what the technology wise, but I mean the way they run the ship. Everybody has to do their job to make it run smoothly.
The majority of the shots done indoors on the ship were when it was in port.
Mm-hmm.
They did go out to sea for a little bit to do some actual, because the Navy's involved. The Navy green lights. You're going to go out for a few days and do some aerial photography. You're going to do some things of ships, of jets launching off the deck. You're going to have good director of photography moments. So we have things for the cutting room floor.
Yeah, see, that was great to see of the actual, not the military people, but the people that were just peon, workers like APs and the boom operator and people like that got to see how the ship really worked and see the people really working on this ship. That would be interesting, I think, to actually hear their points of view. People that never get to see that or interact in that and get to see it live in front of them. I think that would be really exciting to hear some of those people.
It was a lot of fun to see that, and the Navy that I was in was almost a generation behind this one. But
Mm-hmm.
aside from the beards on everybody, because in 1980 you could have a regulation beard as long as it looked nice. Otherwise, shave that shithead, and that's basically how you were treated. I mean, you have to have it to where you can be approachable. You have to look good.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have a beard, look like you've got a beard, which makes me happy because I think we're gonna vacillate back into that. They're already allowing Sikhs and Muslims to have their beards at full length. I imagine the Jews will be part
I
of
was
that.
surprised to see. I never really saw anyone with beards because they had mustaches, but a lot of them didn't have beards because
When
a lot
your
of them.
husband went in, what year was it when your husband went in? I don't want to make you feel
I,
awkward, but what year was it?
he was already in the military when I met him. So I don't know what year.
Okay,
He,
in
but the I
'84, I'm gonna say.
when we went to New Hampshire area, and in Maine and all in that area up there, because they were we went back and forth to where I guess they were building ships and subs. It's to a place where they launched. So I don't. I'm sorry. I don't remember exactly the names of the bases and all that stuff.
You went from the shipyards to the port. Okay.
Yeah, back and forth a little bit. I remember I got to go to Salisbury Beach, Massachusetts, to see the strippers would dress like military guys, and they would go totally nude in that state. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I remember that's where my girlfriends and I would go, so that was fun. But the thing is, the men weren't allowed to have in the submarines. I don't know if it's on ships or anything, but I just remembered uh, different wives griping about their husband's sexy beards having to cut off because when you go in the sub, you had to be able to wear masks or something, some special mask, and you couldn't wear
Your
shield.
OBA apparatus.
Yeah,
Your OBA mask.
so that's why I said I saw a few people here and there wearing masks, wearing uniforms, and I never understood how can they have a mask, or I mean not mask, but a beard. Thinking that to myself when I was watching this movie and then looking at other stuff online. When it started, I started, because you're not involved in it for a while, you don't think about it. So I started thinking about how come some of these people have masks, I mean, mustaches and beards, when I didn't think that anybody was allowed to have it. But that was because I didn't realize until I thought about it that it was because of the part of the military they were in. Depends on what you're allowed to do. So,
The beard was outlawed in the Navy in 1984. They came down with a Navy-wide order. You couldn't have a beard anymore. The only people that can have beards are special operations because they have to go into environments where they can't look like military.
mhm.
And everybody else, sorry, you got to shave your stuff. You gotta look like the rest of us. Like a 19-year-old kid. So off with it, off with that hair, kid. Shave it. And so that's what you do. And they forced that into the service back in, yeah, it was right around '84 when that happened. Because otherwise, that was just kind of something you saw all the time up until then. You would see, and it was fear. It was weird because if you wanted to grow a beard, you couldn't just grow a beard. You could, but you had to put a request in to your command, respectfully request to grow my beard. And your captain would come back with a statement like, it's got to look good, it's got to look photo ready. So they would grade you on your beard and on your ability to fill it out and look masculine. I've heard this from other sailors numerous times that are much older than me, because by the time I got in, that beard thing, no, that's long history, kid. Sorry. So
And
you know,
weird is that also military wives are uh, held to different standards too, because you are in the military compared to what you would be if you were not in the military wife. When it comes to medical, because um, it's kind of personal, but I take birth control pills because I was like, it made me sick because I guess I was allergic to them or whatever. So I had to use different methods to not get pregnant. But after I had this one child, I was like, I don't want to have any more children. So I went to my doctor and he said, well, you have to have your husband's permission. I was like, what do you mean? And he said, well, you have to have a power of attorney or whatever so that you can have the permission to do it. And I go, but it's my. I said they didn't. So I went and dug around and I found power of attorney and I did it anyways. I had my tubes tied. So, and I had to have. So there you go. So the military is way different. People don't realize the difference. The way the government is set up for the wives and the husbands is way different than normal, regular marriages in the rest of the United States. And people just don't understand it. So when they say that women and men, do sacrifice different, they don't know as much. It takes time to learn those things, but they do sacrifice. So, and I thought about all the wives of the husbands that were on that ship. The I always call it a aircraft carrier. Is that what it was called? Or
Yeah.
I wonder what the difference in the battleship. Now that movie was good. I love that movie, Battleship, and it had some very realistic scenes in it. Even though people tell me how stupid it was, but I thought it was a good movie. Personally,
I'll pull up the Battleship for you, and I'll let you see the difference.
but it is military life is way different. My mother was a military wife, my dad, and 3 of my mother's daughters married military men. So there you go.
All right. This is a battleship.
That's what a battleship looks like. Okay, because see, you don't have to have planes landing on it. Oh, the gun things in the front. That's what Cher was dancing on then when she did that
Yes.
one.
That is the very ship that Cher was dancing on. She sullied it.
Sounds familiar to me. But yeah, that's pretty
That's the Battleship Iowa.
gorgeous.
Yeah, and the thing is, unlike other navies, our battleships, you can still go on them. They're floating museums.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Battleship Texas, which is in the middle of a revamp right now, they're gonna restore some things. But the Battleship Texas from World War II, actually from World War I, is still floating in Galveston, and they're putting some new things on it. They're pulling out some of the old asbestos, and they're going to make it a nicer museum ship. Other navies, like the Japanese, the IJNs, their battleships make really good coral reefs.
Mm-hmm. Well, I took my mother on a trip, and I was lucky because I got to do a lot of vacations just with my mom, and we went to Hawaii, and we got to go see the Arizona, the Pearl Harbor, the whole thing. You do the tours and stuff. And my mom cried and cried and cried when she got to go in the Arizona, over to the memorial, and you could still see the oil bubbling up from some of the boats.
I've never been.
And it was so surreal, just thinking about it. And they've got pictures and tons and tons of information. And they had a museum that you'd go and watch different videos about the that happened. And my mom was she was way more emotional than I was because she, I guess her dad was involved or whatever. I don't know. I don't remember because I should have asked more questions. But when you're young, you don't really ask a lot of questions about things like that. But my mom was so glad that she could go because she just thought it was an honor to get to go do that, see it with her own eyes. And I also got to take my mother to Mount Rushmore too, so I got to do a lot of great stuff with my mom. That was things that America should be proud of, memorials that we have.
If you're ever in Fredericksburg, Texas, and I know that is a gigantic if, but this is for anybody in the chat. If you want to go spend some quality time learning about United States military and Texas contributions to the U.S. military, I'm going to tell you need to go to the Nimitz Museum. The Nimitz Pacific War Museum is here in Fredericksburg, Texas. it costs you about $25 to get in. And what you'll do is you're going to go in and you're going to learn about Admiral Nimitz and the life he had before his time in the military. You're going to see him go into the military. You're going to watch some videos and see that he was given opportunities to go back into the private sector and make 4 or 5 times as much as what he made as an officer in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew that he could do better for the Navy than he could do better for anywhere else. And he really did well. He was a fantastic administrator. And I got a chance to spend about 4 hours there with my mom and dad in March. And we toured every aspect that they had inside the museum. Outside the museum is a memorial for all the ships, for all the sailors, every aspect of casualties for the United States Navy in the Pacific War. Every ship, they have a plaque for it. They have the names of the soldiers. Nimitz did not want this museum to be an honor to him. He said, that is really short-sighted. We could do better for the people of the country if we would be able to just have a place where people could go and learn about what we did. And they constructed this while he was alive. They took the captured Japanese sub and they put that in the museum too. We get to see that. That's kind of cute. It's a 2-man.
This is in Texas?
Fredericksburg, Texas, in Hill Country.
Okay, I'm going to write that down because I've never been to that place.
You go to Fredericksburg, Texas, you better call me, and we're going to get a meetup of San Antonio Fellowship people up there because Fredericksburg's nice because you have everything you could want Taste of Texas-wise in Fredericksburg. You don't have a lot of people there. There is a lot of people there, but it's not like Austin or San Antonio where you're crammed in. You have space to walk around.
What's the name of the town that has that giant restaurant where you get the giant steak, and if you can eat it in a certain amount of time, you get a free meal?
You're talking about the 6-pound Amarillo steak.
Yeah, where is that at? What was the name of that?
Amarillo has the big Texan restaurant.
Okay, well, I went there on my way home from New Mexico, and I went to New Mexico to see the place with the spaceship crash.
Mm-hmm.
Mexico. I wanted to go there after I was leaving Arizona. So
$80 is an expensive 6-pound steak. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, I didn't get the steak, but I got to see another person finish that meal and eat it.
Nice.
So, and he was a little guy too, so I was amazed that he did it, and he had like 10, almost 11 minutes left when he finished, and everybody in the restaurant was clapping and stuff. But that was super neat to get to go to that. I took pictures and stuff because I'd never been, and I wanted to go. I put a few places to stop on my way home because when I was a kid, we traveled, like when we lived in Spokane, Washington, we lived in lots of places. But I remember my dad would he'd have a map, and he mapped out, and he said, we got to stop here because they got the biggest giant roll of rubber bands, biggest ball of rubber bands on the road. It was like that. That's what was cool. I love that stuff. And
have you been to Branson?
Yes, I've been to Branson.
Have you been to the restaurant where they throw the rolls at you?
Yes, the home of the thrown rolls.
Yes. I don't remember the name of the restaurant, but I know the slogan, and it's a good place to go eat. That's all I'm going to say.
It's a lot of fun. The one time we went, my mom had made all of us shirts and had our names on the front and had our last name on the back. And we all go in, and I remember going in, and one of the people that worked there asked us if we were a softball team or something.
Nice.
My mom just said, no, we just have a lot of kids. So it was funny. But they assumed it was softball because we were all girls. So
It's understandable.
it was funny though.
Sea sheds are. I used to have a Po Folks in my hometown of Decatur, Illinois. He says we used to throw rolls at Po Folks. Yeah, Po Folks is weird because they tried to play it off like we were ghetto rich, we're ghetto fabulous. Like if there was an attractive lady in your party, they would take her by the arm and lead her to the table. It was a cute gimmick. I'll just say that it was a good gimmick. But I think Po Folks closed as a franchise, or at least as a brand, because the restaurant that we had in Decatur closed in 2006, like everything else.
Is that what it was called? Po Folks is the name of the road rolls.
Yeah, they had throat rolls, but that's not the one in Branson.
Yeah,
I'll Google the one in Branson and it'll pop right up there to you.
States, and
What?
there's only 2 of those restaurants in the United States, and one is in Branson, and I'm trying to remember. Is the other one in Texas or something?
Lambert's Cafe. You have locations in Foley, Alabama, Sikeston, Missouri, and Ozark, Missouri. I knew there was
Okay,
two.
so 3. I thought there was only 2, but
No, you're good. You're good. There's one in Alabama. The only person I know in Alabama is a guy that's far from home. He's far from Minnesota. It's funny to hear him. He'll talk about Minnesota and he gets that twang back. Oh, don't you know?
yeah, it's hilarious. I have lots of relatives that sound like that. They're from Nova Scotia.
Yeah. But no, Lambert's Cafe is one of my favorite places to go if I'm able to stop.
Yeah, that's a fun place to go.
I have a Discord message from you, and I think might be the time for us to discuss that because
Oh, about your the movie My Choice for next time?
yeah, you want to watch The Great Raid.
I love that movie. It's one of my very favorite movies.
I'm surprised that you picked The Great Raid
Why?
because I would not have figured that you would actually pick that. But now that I remember, I saw that movie in the theater with my dad in 2006,
Mm-hmm.
5, and that movie was really good. It's a 3 location movie. There's 3 locations the movie rotates around to, and I really like that film. So you're like, I want to watch this next. Okay, I'm game for that.
Watched this one. It made me think about what my favorite military movie was. And remember what I told you, I guess, way back when we first started talking, except that I'm one of those people that a trailer actually does get me to go to a movie.
Yeah.
So if I see a trailer, like when I saw the trailer for True Lies, I instantly said, I got to see this movie. It's so good. So I can tell a difference. I think a trailer really does make a big difference on whether more people will go see the movie when it's opening. You know what I mean? The opening thing, weekend or whatever. And when I saw the trailer for The Great Raid, I just wanted to see it. Not for the sad story, because I knew it was going to be sad and happy or very emotional, but because of the actors that were in it too. So
You've got some heavy hitters in this movie. You got Benjamin Bratt, Joseph Fiennes, you got James Franco, Robert Malone, Max Martini, James Carpinello, you have Mark Consuelos, you have Craig McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Oh, you know Craig?
Great acting, great story. Everything about this movie I thought was just phenomenal. I mean, I'm sure there's a few flaws here and there, but I just think overall the movie is just something I wish everybody could watch. I just think it was a very well made movie. But it does have, a few things that I thought were kind of creepy or whatever, but and some things I didn't agree with. But you can't have, there's no such thing as a perfect movie. I don't know of any movie that was a 10. I mean, I'll recommend people to go see a movie because it's really, really good. But there's no such thing. Your imagination is way better than any movie.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think if I was going to say the perfect movie, I would go with The Two Towers. The Two
Oh.
Towers is probably my favorite my favorite modern film. If we're going to talk older films, my favorite movie from the 80s would be Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, a lot of guys say that.
That's just a movie that I watch that probably 2 times a year. And I'm actually due to watch that movie, which I need to watch that here this week. It's May. We could probably chat about this film and movies like The Final Countdown all night, but unfortunately for me, tomorrow is Tuesday, and I don't know how your morning schedule is, but if I don't have enough sleep during the night, I'm not good on days.
I have a lot tomorrow because I got to go to my dad's house and change his doorknobs and stuff.
Yeah,
At his house, that feels comfortable about not being there. Hopefully, I can do that.
For my chatters, for the people that showed up for the live stream, for those of you that will watch us later on, I do thank you. And Janet, I thank you as well for allowing me to have a stream with a person who is new to a lot of these movies, I suggest.
Thank you. I hadn't really seen it, but I guess it depends on what's going on in your life when that movie comes out. Because it seemed like I saw lots and lots of movies like Maverick and, just 12 movies. I mean, I went lots and lots of movies I thought were really good. So I don't know why lots of movies I have. I just wasn't every week, I just wasn't one of those people.
That's fine. I appreciate you being here with me tonight.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to next Tuesday next Monday when we can talk about The Great Raid. I'm going to have fun watching that 2 times because that movie's got a lot of stuff I have to write down.
Yeah,
There's a lot in that movie that happens.
Yeah, it's a very, very intricate movie.
It is.
Lots of characters and stuff, but that's one of the reasons I think I really liked it.
Okay.
But thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem. For everybody that showed up tonight, Shadzar, the Woke Breaker, for Shadow and Sun, and for those of you that I did not name, I thank you so much. Janet, you want to escort us out?
What is that?
You want to sign off for us?
A send off for us?
Yes.
I don't know. I never thought of anything to say besides goodbye and have a wonderful night.
For me.
Thank you for hanging out with us and making us feel like we're important. How's that?
That works fantastic. I thank you.
It was fun. I enjoyed it.